Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about interview basics, and we're really going to focus on generating questions that you will be sending to your career professional. So there are four primary types of interviews. There's your typical job interview. There's news-based interviews where you see like a reporter on the street talking to people. There's text-based interviews. That's what, you use in like journalism, or you're, investigating a story and you're asking probing questions that way. And then there are interviews that you yourself are conducting to others. So the first step is obviously generating really strong questions. So you want to clearly define your goal. That means think about what you need to accomplish in the interview. What types of information do you need to know? And then you need to tailor your questions accordingly. So before you even start coming up with questions about the job that you are interested in researching and finding more about, it's a really good idea to spend a couple of minutes just doing a quick Google search of that profession to get a little bit of background information about what, that job is all about. So once you've done that, you want to think about how you're going to word your questions. So think about, you want to be formal and respectful with your questioning. You want to, you don't want to talk like you're talking to your friends in the hallway. The parents that are going to be responding to you, they're important people. They have, busy jobs, busy lives, and they're taking their time out of their schedules to help us with this project. So you want to be formal and also respectful. You also want to tailor your questions to that person. So, you don't want these really broad and ambiguous questions. You want them, to be really kind of focused in on the actual career and what you want to know about it. Like I said before, do your research beforehand. So have a pretty good idea of what that person does on a daily, basis. If you're interviewing a teacher, don't say like, what does a teacher do? You should know that. And then you also want to ask for personal stories and opinions and experiences. Asking them how much money they make, one, is rude and tacky, but two, that's also something that you can easily research, Google it, and it'll be there. Okay, so some things that you want to avoid: using that slang or conversational language, being too vague or too impersonal, and then, again, asking questions that you can find in the Google. Okay, so there are different types of interview questions. So we have our dreaded question, what is an average income? Again, this is something that you can easily find out yourself without having to ask someone. So we don't want to ask those types of questions, but we do want you to ask questions like, describe the most rewarding part of your job. Why would you recommend this job to someone else? And then what is the best advice you can offer someone entering your field? Those are three types of good open-ended questions that you can get a lot of information about from your interviewee. I'm going to pause this for a second because my dog is driving me crazy. Hold on. Okay, sorry. I realize you don't even notice that I'm pausing, but my dog, she like obsessively licks her feet and it makes me crazy. So anyhow, she's done. All right. So obviously research, and use your research to guide your questions. So you want to have background or context to help you frame your questions. So here's something you might find in researching about a teacher. So the teaching profession has changed significantly over the past few years due to the focus on student-centered learning and project-based learning. So you might see that research and come up with a question like this. What did you do to best prepare yourself for teaching in the 21st century classroom? You can get a lot of information from your person by asking that question, and most of these people have been working for quite a while, and and I myself as a teacher, there's been a huge change in how classrooms have been run since the time, I even started at Cooper and also when I was a student myself. Like, thank goodness there's no more like teachers standing behind a podium lecturing on and on and on and making you take notes on your like empty notebook paper. So again, this is a good example of how you can have a little bit of research to frame a really good question. All right, so here are some other tips. I think this one's a no-brainer. Ask open-ended questions. Okay, so really try to avoid questions where you get yeses or nos. Okay, so don't ask like, do you like your job? Did you go to college? Would you recommend this profession to someone who is shy? You know, those are kind of elementary, and again, you're not getting any information out of that, and that's not going to help you when you actually have to write your essay. So if you do ask a close-ended question, like one of the ones from before, you are going to want to make sure that you follow up with an open-ended question. So, like, if you say, like, do you like your job? And then they might say yes. Then you would ask, what was the first job you obtained in the field? So, particularly like high executives, like CEOs, you're not walking into a CEO position right after you graduated from college. You're going to have to go through quite a ladder of different roles in that organization before you'll get to, a CEO level. Another good question would be like, what are some valuable lessons you learned from this job that helped you obtain a better job in the field? You also want to keep things light. So if you ask a heavy question, follow it up with a more positive one. So thinking about, doctors or veterinarians, they might have bad days where they have to tell their patients bad news, or they might lose someone. And yes, it's important to learn like what that's like, but you also want to kind of maybe ask another question after that will make things a little bit light again, so we're not kind of focusing on like the sad. Okay, so a heavy question might be like, in what ways can being a teacher be challenging? And my gosh, they'll probably write you an essay on that. But then you would follow it up with, and how does it make you feel to know that you shape the lives of future generations? See? Nice and happy. The other thing is, don't list a whole bunch of questions right after another. You want to kind of give them one question to focus on, answer, and then go to your next question. Oftentimes it gets to be too overwhelming, and the person might confuse information or skip over, important details that will help you. You also want to avoid leading questions. So you want their honest opinion, but you don't want to guide them by your own opinion. So, as a teacher, of course, this is a good question, right? Why is teaching the best profession ever? But, there are drawbacks, and, you don't want to influence your own ideas onto somebody else's. And then, obviously, build your questions so that they flow. You don't want things to be choppy or out of order. Okay? So, that is it for today. So the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to go back into Google Classroom, and you're going to open up the form that's called, I think it's called like the question generator. And you will come up with 10 questions, really good questions, for the person you are going to be interviewing. So that's it. Good luck, and I will see you on Friday. Have a good day.